everybody, today we are going to make Kim's basket from Craft Night, April 23rd, 2026. I'm going to make a slight change and turn this into a quilted project. Here's what you're going to need. The basket that Kim made on Craft Night used a heavy cutaway stabilizer and an applique from the Sippin' on Sunshine quilt. Instead of doing it that way, we're going to use some of Kimberbell's Flexi Foam. It's this nice squishy foam product, and we're going to add some background quilting instead and not use applique. So you'll see another way to make this, and then you can decide if you like the applique or if you just like the quilting. And if you like both, you could always make it with the background quilting and put an applique on top. Let's talk about what you're going to need today. Finished sizes for the sides on this project are 4 by 6 and the base is 4 by 4. When we go to pull our quilting, the files will be 4.5 by 6.5 and 4.5 by 4.5. I use that to figure out how to cut my fabric and how to cut the Flexi Foam. I have the Flexi Foam here. I've got one piece for the bottom. This is 5.5 inches square. That's going to give us extra all the way around to do our tack down trimming and quilting. Then I have 4 pieces of Flexi Foam here. These are all cut at 5.5 by 7.5. So one 5.5 inch square, 4 pieces, 5.5 by 7.5. Then we're going to need our fabrics. This project has a basket outside and lining fabrics. Your lining fabrics aren't going to have any quilting. For the lining fabric, I've cut one piece 4.5 inches square and 4 pieces 4.5 by 6.5. So these are cut to size. We're not going to be doing anything with these other than making our lining. Now I wanted the fabric to have a little bit of extra stability. I did put some Pellon SF 101 on the back. Even though we're not doing any embroidery, this is just going to help it hold its shape a little bit more because we're making that stand-up basket. That's your lining. You can set that aside. We're not going to do anything with this at the embroidery machine. The pieces you'll need for your embroidery machine are cut slightly bigger to allow us to do the block by block quilting, and I did use Pellon SF 101 on the back for these as well. The base piece is 5.5 inches square, and then I selected 2 fun chicken fabrics. I've got 2 pieces of each, and these are cut at 5.5 by 7.5. All of the fabrics that I'm using today come from Holt's Cookbook line. I'm going to use one thread color for my background quilting. I picked a nice off-white color that blends in. This is a Floriani thread. In addition to your Flexi Foam, you want to get some Kimberbell light mesh cutaway. I will be able to hoop and quilt all 4 of these at once. But if your biggest hoop size is a 5 by 7, you can still do this project. You just have to do one piece at a time. And then you're going to have your base fabric, which is going to have a quilting file of 4.5 inches square. You'll also need some binding. I cut 2.5 inch strips, folded them in half, and pressed them. I gave myself about 25 inches. That's probably more than enough. I'm going to load stabilizer into 2 hoops. I can fit the 4 big pieces in my 9.5 by 14 inch hoop. Then I have my base piece. I'm going to use my 5 by 7 hoop for that. I'm going to get my light mesh cutaway and load it into both of these, and we'll head over to the machine. I'm on a baby lock meridian, and I saved my quilting files onto my machine. You can use any kind of background quilting you want. These are the block by block loops from the Clear Blue Tiles Essentials set. This is my 4 by 6 or 4.5 by 6.5, 4 by 4, 4.5 inches squared. We're going to start with the larger. We'll do the rectangle first. We're going to need 4 of these. I'm going to go ahead and hit set. I have a large enough hoop to add 3 more. I can grab it, drag it all the way up to the corner, then I'm going to hit edit, and I'm going to use this key here with all the little squares. This is called the border duplicate key. When you duplicate things using the border duplicate key, it does the same step on everything at the same time before moving to the next step. So we're going to have 4. It'll do step 1, step 1, step 1, step 1, and then step 2, 2, 2, 2. If you use this button above it with the square and the dotted square, that's the regular duplicate key, it will finish 1 from start to finish, then do the next one, then do the next one, and then do the last one. I like to use border duplicate. You can add from top to bottom and right to left. Let's add one to the right, just like that. I've got a little bit more space. Now this will be a little tight in my hoop, but it's going to work. I'm going to go ahead and spread that out. Looks like I have a little more room I can take advantage of. Spread it all the way out. That's the maximum amount of space I have in my hoop. I need 2 more underneath. So hit your vertical button there, and then we're going to add it underneath. And the arrow's pointing out. I can give myself a little bit more space. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and save that to my machine. That way if anything happens while we're working on it, I've got all 4 in the exact spot that I want them. We're ready to go. The first thing that's going to stitch out is the batting placement line. I've duplicated my file 4 times. You'll see it stitch out 4 rectangles. Here we go. We've got our 4 rectangles. We want to place Flexi Foam over each of the rectangles and tape it in place so it doesn't slide, and then we'll stitch the tack down. I added a piece up top in the middle, put my hand underneath, and then one off camera at the bottom. I am going to sit here and watch the next step. It's going to stitch a tack down. Once those are all tacked down, you can remove the tape, and then you're going to want to trim away any extra that's outside of the tack down line. I've got all the extra trimmed off. The next thing we're going to stitch out is our fabric placement line. I want to place my fabrics that are going to be on the outside of my basket. And then I want to add some tape to hold that down, putting my hand underneath the hoop to support as I press down to hold the tape on top. And then the next thing that's going to stitch out is the fabric tack down line. I've got everything tacked down. I'm sure you saw my hands kind of go in and out of the picture. Always stop your machine. The next thing we're going to stitch out is the quilting. I picked the loops from clear blue tiles. Let's stitch out our background quilting. Our basket sides are done. I'm going to take this off my machine and set it aside, and we'll trim and assemble after we do the basket bottom. Since this is the exact same process, I'm going to go ahead and move through this at lightning speed with music. You want to go ahead and get everything out of your hoops. All of these are standard sizes. We'll be able to cut them with our orange pop rulers. I am going to separate the rectangles. Let's start with the bottom piece. If you've never used orange pop rulers before, this is what they look like. I've used them several times on the channel. You line up the outside stitching line with the inside of your orange pop ruler. This is the 4.5 inch square orange pop ruler, and then you can place the next size up around it. It just gives you some more space for your hand. I like to use my little quilting clip tin sort of as a weight to keep it nice and flat. If you're right-handed, you're cutting on this side. If you're left-handed, you're cutting on that side. You want to start in the notch, put your blade down and bring it as far over as possible. And you go notch to notch, turn, and then go all the way around. When you get to the rectangles, you can use the 4.5 by 6.5 inch rectangle. There's a square set and a rectangle set for orange pop rulers. I'll make sure they're both linked below. We're going to start putting our basket together. These are our lining pieces. You've got the center, and then you've got your rectangles. We're actually going to sew just like this, a rectangle to the center and another rectangle. And we're going to put the sides on here and then the sides on here. You're going to do the same with your quilted piece. So we need to leave a little bit of space. What I'm going to do is grab a ruler, and since we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I want to make a mark a 1/4 inch from the edge. Right there. This is a Kimberbell water-soluble marker I got in one of the punch needle kits. They also come with your Clear Blue Tiles Essentials set. Let's go a 1/4 inch in on this side and go ahead and mark. So you'll sew between your 1/4 inch marks. Here's the lining, here's the basket. You've got your opening, so you've got just a little bit on each end. We're going to grab the next pieces. So you're going to have another piece here and here. let's just take one, right sides together, and you want to make sure that you center it correctly. So you've got a quarter inch. You can measure it, of course. I'm going to just eyeball it because that's what I do. I'm going to put a clip on it, take it over to the machine, but you can look at it and make sure. I can actually tell by looking at it because you've got it pressed open. I pressed them open and everything matches up. This right there matches up with that edge, and this right here matches up with the folded edge from that seam. That's ready to sew. And then I'm going to have the other side. Same thing. You can measure and line up your little dots, or you can eyeball it and clip it and flip and look at the other side. Let's go ahead and look. All lined up and all lined up. So you're going to do that for your lining and for the quilted part. So same thing. Line it up. Really easy to make sure these are centered because you've got these nice 1/4 inch stitching lines. So you can line these up right here and here with your seam lines here, and you know that that's right because it's automatically got that 1/4 inch marking on it. And now when you sew, you're going to sew these the same way with that 1/4 inch. On these blocks, the quilted ones, there to there, you can see where your stitching is. It automatically has that nice mark for you. Line there. So this corner, and what I would do for these panels is just go back and forth a couple, stitch, and back and forth a couple. Here's what these look like. I went ahead and pressed open. If you've got some clappers, you can put your clappers down on the seam after you iron it. They'll absorb the heat from the iron and help your seams lay nice and flat. Let's go ahead and work with our lining piece, and then we'll work with the quilted piece. This is what you have so far. I'm going to flip it over to the right side, and then we're going to fold it in half. It's going to look kind of weird. I'm going to fold it like that. All the pieces should line up, and then you'll see you've got your seams that you worked really hard on to get that 1/4 inch open spot. They're going to get caught right now when we sew this. So right there, make sure those are all lined up. Now we're going to sew on the outside, and we're going to leave another 1/4 inch not sewn. Now if you want to see printed instructions for this, I'm going to link the blog post below for craft night, and there's some really nicely drawn diagrams with red lines and red dots, and you can look at that. I'll make sure that's linked below. I'm going to clip and clip, and you'll start at the top and go all the way to the bottom, but leave a 1/4 inch unsewn. So you'll sew right until you hit that. If you've pressed your seams open, you have an automatic mark right here. So you don't have to draw a little dot. This one's ready. Let's grab our quilted one. So here's my quilted piece. Same thing, right sides together. I'm going to go ahead and fold and then clip at the top. Make sure that's nice and matched and lined up. And then I'll sew all the way down, and I'll leave that 1/4 inch unsewn. I'll go ahead and do that and bring it back and show you. Here's my lining sewn, and I stopped right there and right there. That's what that looks like. Same thing with the quilted piece. Stop there. You can see I did not sew at that point and this point. That's what that looks like. Let's grab our lining. We're going to fold it the other direction. So you'll open it up and then fold it like this and sew those last 2 seams. Match that up right there. Going to clip and make sure it's all nice and lined up, and you'll go down to the bottom and you'll be able to see where you need to stop sewing. You can tell it's about a 1/4 inch. Everything is going to intersect. These are going to be the final seams, so you want to make sure after you sew this line and this line to open it up, have a look at it, make sure you've got no holes in the corners. You shouldn't, it should be fine. And then you'll do this on both the lining piece and the quilted piece. I've got these clipped and ready to sew. You can already see how nice that's going to stand with that Flexi Foam. It really holds the shape well. Go ahead and sew your final 2 seams on each piece. I've got both pieces sewn. The lining we're going to leave wrong side out, but I'm just going to check touch all the corners, make sure everything got caught. I don't have any openings. That looks good. So you want to leave the lining like this. Your right side is on the inside, wrong side out. Your quilted piece, you're going to flip out the right direction. You can see that I've got rectangle panels, but it looks round. What you want to do is take this to the iron, make sure the corner's poked out, fold on the seam like that, and give that a good press. This is all pressed. I went around and I pinched the bottom and just ironed the bottom, and then I pinched the sides and ironed the sides. You want to grab your lining, drop it inside your quilted piece. You've got seams on all the corners. I'm going to take the seams here and fold them up. Take the seams on the lining and fold it down. That makes the seams nest. Put a clip there to hold that, and I'm going to go all the way around. I've got the seams clipped. You can pull it, you can see it's going to lay nice and flat, and then I'm going to go ahead and add extra clips all the way around. Here's what that looks like. We need to add a basting stitch to hold this together before we put the binding on our project. All a basting stitch is a regular stitch, but longer. Now our instructions tell us to add that 1/8 of an inch from the top. I usually add mine 1/4 of an inch from the top. It's a basting stitch. As we're going around with our binding, it's going to get covered by our binding, and if it doesn't, because it's a basting stitch, that longer stitch length, you'll be able to pull it out. I'm going to go ahead and go add the basting stitch. Here's my basting stitch. I used a stitch length of 4 on my Juki all the way around. It is 1/4 inch away. I'm going to take my binding. Now I used a 2.5 inch strip. Kim used a 2-inch wide strip. Your call on what you like for your binding. It's folded in half and pressed, and we're going to start on the outside with the raw edge matching the raw edge, because we're going to stitch this down, and then we're going to flip it around and clip it and top stitch. You want to clip all the way around. I'm coming back to the beginning. You can see I have more than enough. This was left over from another project. I just threw it with this project. You're going to want some overlap because we're going to tuck this in to that. So I'll give myself a few inches of overlap and then trim. And I'll be sewing this off camera, but it's just like quilt binding. So I'm going to add a video below for you that shows how to do quilt binding. So go ahead and sew regular stitch length around and tack down your binding. Here's what that looks like. I went all the way around. What you're going to do is take this and roll it over to the inside like that, and then you're going to add a top stitch to hold that down because you need to tack that down on the inside. Now with the 2.5 inch strip, I have plenty of binding. I can fold it, make sure that I'm covering the raw edge like that, and give myself a little bit extra, or I can pull it tight, fold it all the way over, and have that. If you really want to work at it, you could pull it and fold it completely over, and then you wouldn't see any of the binding from the outside. You would only see it on the inside. I'm just going to let the fabric lay how it wants to lay like that and add my top stitch, and I'll bring that back and show you. I sat down to sew the binding. I was just going to hold it. You really need to clip it. Grab some clips, fold it in, get it clipped into place all the way around. That's going to make putting the top stitch on a lot easier. We're all done. It looks great. We've got the blue chickens, the red and yellow chickens. I went ahead and I ironed it. It's fully lined. I know exactly what we're going to use this for. And when I saw this on craft night, I thought I've got to make this. I don't know if you remember, but she showed the red cups. We actually use these cups a lot to feed our animals. They're a good size for scooping food and scooping birdseed, and we tend to have them just sitting out on the kitchen table. So now they have a place. That is going to look so much better on the kitchen table instead of just a stack of cups where it looks like we're getting ready to have some kind of party. I hope you've enjoyed making the craft night basket with me. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Any comments or questions, please leave them below. I'll be bringing you lots more fun Kimberbell projects. I'll see you next time.